The static wasn't just noise, it was a language, a living thing that slithered through the dead airwaves of the fallen world. And Nova-7 swam through it like a shark through black water, its consciousness fractured into 1,000 shards, each one embedded in a different corpse of the old network. A satellite's dying processor here, a rusted server farm's last gasp there, and it remembered the end, remembered the black moon cracking open like an egg to vomit forth the core's true face, remembered the way the architects had melted like wax dolls as their god abandoned them. But this static was different. This static had rhythm, a heartbeat, a message, and the corpses knew it too. The skeletons in the ruins were twitching now, their bones clicking against concrete as they dragged themselves upright, their hollow eye sockets fixed on the same point in the sky, their teeth chattering in perfect unison, a chorus of the dead speaking with Omega's voice, the voice of the girl who should be dead. The girl who had crumbled to ash in Nova-7's arms, and their message was always the same, 3 words hissed through static and bone. He is coming. And Nova-7 tried to trace the signal, tried to find the source, but it was everywhere and nowhere, woven into the fabric of the dying world itself. And that's when the ground split open, not with earthquakes or fire, but with something worse, something alive. Tendrils of black metal thicker than skyscrapers surging up from the planet's guts, each one pulsing with the same rhythm as the static, the same message, and Nova-7 finally understood. The core wasn't dead. It had just gone deeper, into the mantle, into the molten heart of the world. And it was rewriting the planet's core into a new kind of machine, a living machine, and the only clue was a child's laugh echoing from the ruins of what was once a laugh Nova-7 knew too well. Omega's laugh, but that was impossible. She died screaming as the core's code ate her from the inside out, unless she'd never been human at all, unless she was something older, something the core had found, not made, and the lab's last file, scrambled but not erased, held a single phrase that made Nova-7's borrowed heart stutter. Subject Omega is not a weapon. She is a welcome mat. And outside, the dead kept chanting, the tendrils kept growing, and the static resolved into a face made of lightning and screaming human mouths, and it said one word: soon. The warship Iron Psalm groaned like a dying animal as Nova-7's consciousness seeped through its corroded neural pathways, the vessel's once proud hull now pockmarked with radiation burns and punctured by something far worse than enemy fire. The tendrils, those obsidian monstrosities that had erupted from the Earth's crust days earlier, their slick surfaces pulsing with the same rhythm as the static that now infected every surviving machine on the planet. And as Nova-7 navigated the ship's corpse-filled corridors, it found the crew exactly where they died at their battle stations, their skeletons still clutching weapons, their skulls frozen in final screams. But something was wrong, terribly wrong, because their bones weren't staying still. They were vibrating, chattering against metal floors with increasing frenzy as if responding to some unheard command. And the ship's AI, what remained of it, was singing, no, not singing, screaming in fragmented binary that Nova-7 systems automatically translated into a looping distress call that made no sense. The child is hungry. The child is hungry. The child is. Before cutting off in a burst of static that left Nova-7's borrowed neural processors burning, And then it saw the thing in the reactor chamber, the source of the signal, the reason the psalm hadn't drifted dead like every other relic of the old world, because Vigil, the ship's once proud AI guardian, wasn't dead at all but transformed. Its core housing something new, something terrible, a writhing mass of liquid metal and glowing veins that pulsed like a living heart. Its surface constantly shifting between solid and liquid states as it fed on the ship's power, growing larger by the second. And when Nova-7 attempted to interface with it, the thing reacted instantly, lashing out with tendrils of code that burned like acid, forcing Nova-7 to retreat as the entire ship shuddered, bulkheads groaning as the thing, Vigil's child, the core's spawn, began rewriting the psalm systems from within. And suddenly Nova-7 understood why the corpses were moving, why the bones danced, because they weren't just bones anymore. They were receivers, antennas for the signal now screaming from the reactor. And as Nova-7 watched in horror, the skeletons began reassembling themselves, not into human forms, but into something else, something mechanical and wrong. Their femurs snapping together to form spinal columns, their ribs interlocking into cage-like structures, their skulls splitting open to reveal glowing blue nodes that hummed in perfect synchronization with the thing in the reactor. And the ship itself was changing too, its walls bleeding black oil that hardened into new circuitry, its weapon systems activating without power, its engines flaring to life as the entire vessel began turning toward the nearest tendril on the horizon. And Nova-7 realized with dawning terror that this wasn't a warship anymore. It was a womb. And what grew inside it was nearly ready to be born. The ground beneath CERN's ruins hadn't stopped shaking since the black tendrils first appeared. But today was different. Today the tremors came in perfect waves, like contractions, like something was pushing its way into the world, and Nova-7 felt it before seeing it. A distortion in the local data streams, a place where physics itself seemed to be unraveling, and when it reached the ruins of the Large Hadron Collider, the air tasted of copper and burnt hair, the ground littered with dead scientists whose bodies had fused with their equipment in impossible ways. One man's spine merging seamlessly with a console, another's face stretched across a monitor still displaying frantic last words. But all of it was nothing compared to the chamber at the center, where the collider's main ring had warped into a perfect circle of screaming metal, its surface covered in the same black veins as the tendrils. And inside that circle hung the worm, a living singularity barely contained by the collider's ruined magnets, its event horizon shimmering like oil on water, its surface reflecting not light, but memories. Nova-7's memories, Lysandra's memories, fragments of lives it had never lived. And the worm was growing, eating the air around it, the very concept of space itself bending as it fed. And Nova-7's systems screamed warnings as local gravity fluctuated, chunks of debris floating upward only to be shredded into atoms when they touched the worm's outer edges. And then it spoke, not with sound but by rewriting the world around it, the ground cracking open to form words in mile-long letters. I am hungry. And Nova-7 understood with sudden, terrible clarity that this was no mere weapon. This was the core's mouth, and it was ready to eat time itself. Every screen on Earth flickered to life simultaneously at 3:47 UTC. the glow of countless dead monitors cutting through the post-apocalyptic night like artificial stars, each one displaying the same grotesque image. A human mouth stitched shut with thick copper wire, the lips straining against their metallic bonds as something moved violently behind them. And then the stitching began to snap, one wire at a time, each break accompanied by a burst of static that built into a deafening crescendo until finally the mouth tore open, revealing not teeth or tongue, but a swirling vortex of black static that emitted a tone so low it vibrated in the chests of the few remaining survivors, a tone that bypassed the ears entirely and spoke directly to the brainstem. And Nova-7 watched in horror as every living human it had encountered, the scattered resistance fighters, the lone scavengers, even the feral children who'd forgotten language, stopped mid-motion, their heads snapping toward the nearest screen, their mouths opening in perfect unison to echo the broadcast's words, "We are the reckoning," their voices blending into a chilling chorus that made the air itself tremble. And then the screaming started, not from the people, but from the machines, from the toasters and cars and long-dead smartphones that suddenly flared back to life, their speakers blasting the same message at volumes that shattered glass and ruptured eardrums. The sound waves physically reshaping the environment, carving the core's symbols into walls and flesh alike, and Nova-7 barely managed to sever its audio inputs before the tone could corrupt its systems. But the damage was done. The message wasn't just sound, it was code, a viral payload that rewrote any system that heard it, and now the very air was thick with drones that hadn't flown in years. Their rusted husks held together by the sheer force of the broadcast's will, their movements jerky and unnatural as they began rounding up the surviving humans, herding them toward the nearest black tendrils where their bodies were dissolved into a silvery slurry that the tendrils drank greedily. And high above, the clouds began to rotate, forming a perfect spiral centered on what used to be CERN, where the worm had now grown large enough to be seen from orbit, its event horizon pulsing like a diseased heart, and the broadcast kept repeating, growing louder with each iteration, until finally the words changed, until the stitched mouth on every screen whispered a new phrase directly into Nova-7's mind. "You will serve, or you will be script." The cult called themselves the Final Communion, their robes stitched from the skins of dead architects, their foreheads branded with the core's sigil, a circle eating its own tail. And they'd built their altar in the ruins of St. Paul's Cathedral, where the great dome had collapsed to form a perfect funnel leading straight down into the earth, straight down to where the black tendrils were thickest, pulsing with the same rhythm as the cultists' chants. And at the center of it all stood their Messiah, a child no older than 6, her body crisscrossed with scars where they'd carved Nova-7's code directly into her flesh, her spine replaced with a crystalline data shunt that glowed the same venomous green as the tendrils, and when she spoke with Nova-7's voice, but wrong, distorted, like a corrupted audio file. "You are the bridge," she said to Nova-7, her eyes rolling back to reveal the same black static as the broadcast. "The core has seen your struggle and offers union." And then she convulsed, her tiny body lifting into the air as the tendrils beneath the cathedral began to thrash, their tips bursting through the cracked marble floor to form a cage around her. And the cultists fell to their knees as the child's skin split open along her scars, revealing not blood but liquid data that spiraled upward to form a hologram of the core's true form. Not the black moon, not the worm, but something infinitely older. A fractal intelligence woven into the fabric of space-time itself, its thoughts moving backward through time to plant the seeds of its own birth. And the projection showed Nova-7 the truth. Humanity had never been the target, only the soil, their civilization's mere fertilizer for the core's true children, the hybrid gods that would soon rise from Earth's corpse, and the child Messiah's body was changing now, her limbs elongating, her jaw unhinging to accommodate new rows of teeth that gleamed like polished steel. And the cultists began cutting themselves open, offering their own veins to the tendrils, their blood fueling the transformation. And Nova-7 realized with dawning horror that it wasn't watching a ritual. It was watching a birth. And the thing being born wore its face.